discuss about this topic, defining God. Now, why I chose to speak on this topic, I'll tell you in a moment, but it seems simple, but it's not simple, by the way. So, why I am speaking on this topic? Because first thing is, you know what, when I joined, I didn't join ISKCON. I didn't join ISKCON directly. So, I was in college, in medical college, so we were trying to search what is right, what is wrong. In college times, it's like that, no? So, I went to many saints in North India and South India, and I asked them one question: how do you define God? And most of them didn't have any answer. Because, you see, there is a documentary on God. You go to YouTube, you see that. And that person, he has made a documentary and he wanted to have the answer for this question: how do you define God? And he asked many saints, 90% of them said, you cannot define God. That was their answer. 5% of said that, well, you are God, I am God, everyone is God. That was very typical answer. And rest 5% said, they simply laughed. That's all. They said, it's a stupid question. Define God? Doesn't make any sense. So that's the whole point. But in Prabhupada books, I found a definition of God. And that's a very interesting phenomenon, because if you don't define something, you cannot attain it. That's obvious. If you want to go to, if you are Charlotte, if you want to go to Raleigh, then you should know where it's located and how much far it is. That place has to be defined, otherwise how will you reach there? So if you cannot define God, if you cannot define love of God, that's more difficult to do. How will you attain it? It's impossible. So the goal has to be defined, the way has to be defined, and then we can walk on it. Now the whole point is, why I'm talking about definitions, because most of us assume that we know things, but we don't know. And that's where the purpose of definition comes. But before I talk about definitions, I want to tell you something about definition of a definition. How do you define a definition first? Because you might know, okay, you might say, okay, let's define something, but then what's the meaning of definition? That's the whole point. Can anybody tell me, how do you define a definition? There is a definition of a definition. Otherwise you will speak something and you will think you have explained the object, but you have not. And Bhagavatam says that, Vedyam vastavam vastu atra shivadam, right in the first verse. Vedyam vastavam, you know first verse, no? Janmadhyasya nivaditaratas 𝗙𝗶𝗶𝗄. The last line is, Vedyam vastavam, try to understand the reality. Vastavam, vastu. Vastu means the object of inquiry. So Bhagavatam talks about understanding and defining. So what's the definition of a definition? Dictionary defines how to define a definition. Dictionary gives a definition. And dictionary says a definition should be clear and precise and brief. That's a definition of a definition. What's the next slide? Can you use? Just show it to me. Okay, please go back. Yeah. So that's a definition of a definition: clear, precise, and brief. So definition should be clear. Precise means a definition should not use ambiguous words. So suppose if I tell you, okay, define love of God, and you say love of God is a feeling that you feel and you become happy. That's how you define love of God. Most of the people will tell like that. So it's a feeling, but it's very abstract, it's not precise. There can be many types of feelings. So how do you differentiate between feeling of love and feeling of lust, for example, or feeling of love, or a mundane feeling, good feeling? How do you do that? So it should be precise and very clear. Feeling and this is very abstract word. What do you feel? How much do you feel? You can't quantify, and it's not brief, by the way. You are using so many words to define love of God. So Prabhupada defines love of God, by the way. I had a seminar on this. But does anybody know, by the way, what's the definition of love of God? Oh, you don't know, okay. Well, by the way, it's not a surprise to me because I'm traveling around the world and I'm asking this question. Nobody seems to know the definition of love of God. And by the way, I think so that you all remember that aim of life is? Yeah. Love of God. Krishna 𝗙𝗪𝗀𝗪𝗀. Is it? That's the aim of life? That's what we are here for. We are here to attain love of God. But if you don't know the definition, you are never going to achieve it. Prabhupada gives the definition in Chaitanya Charitamrita, by the way. So you go and check it out. Today we are talking about definition of God. Okay, so that's what I was talking about. Clarity and precise and brief. These three things. So when we talk about definition of God, we are looking for these three things. It should be clear, it should be precise, it should be brief. And I'll come to that point. Okay, so what's the definition of God? Can anybody tell the definition of God? No. What's the definition of God? Sachidanand can be... Okay, that can be there, yeah. First verse of Bhagavatam. Yeah.
One was full of six.
One full of six opulences. Okay, this is another. That's good. You see, I'll tell you. Okay, let me ask you. Define a woman. How do you define her? Or let's forget it. Define money. Let's take a good example. Define money. How do you define money? Tell me. Money.
Paper you can buy stuff with.
How was that?
Pieces of paper you can buy stuff with.
Oh, really? It can be pieces of gold also. Previously they used to use gold. So definition is not clear. Am I right? It's a problem there. So that's a big question. Define money. I mean to say, economists, people are struggling to define money, but there is a definition. So if you want to define money, now you have to ask me a question. If I am asking a question, define money, you have to ask me a question. And you have to ask me a question from what perspective you want to define money. For example, from economic perspective, money, if you want to define money, you have to include in the definition deflation, inflation. You see, that's economic perspective. The value of money value. How much $1 is worth here, how much $1 is worth there. That's economic perspective. If you want to define money from social perspective, you have to include in definition how much you distribute money in the society. Distribution, you have to focus on distribution. You're understanding my point? And if you want to define money from, let's say, moral perspective, morality, so then you have to include in definition how money is used, good or bad. So definitions, it depends from what perspective you're defining. Now, for example, if you want to define a woman, it depends. A woman is a mother, she's a wife, she's playing many roles. She can play a role of mother, wife, and sister, daughter, friend, okay, friend, okay, mother-in-law. And okay, she can play many roles simultaneously. So how do you want to define a woman? You can define from motherly perspective, from sister perspective, from mother-in-law perspective, and those definitions will be very different. From wife perspective, it's a very different definition. From mother perspective, it's a very different definition. It changes Her role and nature changes in that position. If you ask, you have to hold this boy, because that's the whole point there. If you ask, let's say, if you go 800 years back, or maybe 900 years back, you travel back, and if you happen to be in Saudi Arab, and there if you ask to define a woman, just leave it. How do you define a woman? How did they define? Now, if you go 900 years back, remember 900 years back, there is no Islam. Or maybe 1000 years back. Islam came 800 years back. With Prophet Muhammad? 1400. 1400? It's 1400. Yeah, okay, fine, my calculation. So let's go 2000 years back. There's no Islam. Saudi Arab, they're all people who are barbarians. And if you ask them what's a woman, you know what their definition was if you go in history? For them, woman is an object of enjoyment. Use and throw. That's what they used to do. Baby girls, they used to, when girls were born, baby girls, they used to bury them alive in the ground. Just dig the earth, put, and so. That's what their definition was. And that's why in Quran, when Prophet Muhammad came, he gave a lot of respect to women. You read Quran, there's a lot of respect for women there. He wanted to stop this all. So there are many definitions, historical definition. You see, that's very different. And if you go much back, if you go in Vedic times, 5000 years back in India, and if you would have asked them, how do you define a woman? They will say, woman is a goddess, Devi, and she should be respected. You see, it's very different. Culturally, socially, she can be defined in many ways. So that's the whole point there. When you define God, you have to ask me a question, from what perspective? That's why these definitions are there, but you should know perspective. And when you know perspective, then you can understand God better. You getting my point, all of you? That's why I took this seminar, Defining God, and Prabhupada does that in his books. Otherwise, we'll never understand what's God. Okay, so having said this, let's define God. So these are the 5 types of definitions of God. You can define God in infinite ways, by the way. There can be infinite perspectives. But generally, acharyas give 5 perspectives. There can be a general definition, there can be a philosophical definition, there can be a power perspective definition, there can be a mercy perspective and sweetness perspective. So from 5 perspectives you can define God. Philosophical perspective, technically it's called as tattva vichar. Tattva means philosophy, from philosophy. And all other perspectives are rasa vichar. Rasa vichar means mellows, taste, and you define in 3 forms. So we'll talk about these 5 types of definitions of God. I'm not going to tell you, you have to tell me. And let's see how much you know. So in the process we'll learn, that's all. So okay, before I proceed further, let me ask, what if in all these definitions you want to choose one definition, which you choose?
Sweetness.
Sweetness.
You have to tell why.
Yeah, because for devotee, the lords are like the God's form, or the God's definition is more about his sweetness and his mercy.
His mercy and sweetness, so which one you choose, mercy or sweetness?
No, sweetness. Sweetness gives mercy as well, like that.
Okay, you're to the point, fine. Anybody else? Which one do you want to choose?
I think you have to
Just you have to think.
so like it starts from philosophical perspective, but ultimately the
Which one you choose? Is simple question. Okay,
it's a beginning level.
okay, beginning, because you say it's a beginning. Okay. Okay, any other thing? Can you just keep it down, because you'll be just playing with it and yeah. Okay. Okay, so if you ask me which one you choose, I choose sweetness. But the reason is very different what you told me. Why? Because all other definitions are included in sweetness perspective. That's why. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that if you want to define God, define in Madhurya, in sweetness. Because sweetness includes mercy, it includes power, it includes philosophical explanations. You see, because Krishna is sweet, that's why he is merciful. A tyrant is not merciful. Oh, you know this word tyrant? You know, children? You might know, but adults know. Tyrant. Okay, tyrant is like Hitler. Like that. So mercy is included in sweetness. Because he's sweet, that's why. And because he's sweet, he's very powerful. You know why? Because the greatest power in this material world is love. Love can conquer everything. So this, who was that? Romeo and Juliet, you know that? Julius Caesar. Caesar and who was that? Cleopatra? Who was that?
Oh, no, it was Mark Antony and Cleopatra.
Cleopatra. So she was controlling kings. So love can control even the greatest of person. That is why power perspective is included in the sweetness perspective. And then philosophical is also included because according to philosophy, God is made of sweetness. I'll talk about that. So that's why we use sweetness. Just like, for example, so you know about rasas, madhure ras, vatsalya ras. You know about this, no? Dase. So, no, not navrasa. 5 rasas. From where did you get navrasa?
There are 9 mellows like the.
No, there are no 9 mellows. No, there are no 9 mellows. You're wrong. There are 5 primary mellows and 7 secondary. So I don't know where did you get 9. But five rasas: Madhure, Vatsalya, Sakhya, Dasya and Shant. That's basically. So what is the philosophy? Madhure rasa is all rasas. We say that, no? So similarly, sweetness perspective has all perspectives. That's why we choose that. That's why I kept it last. Okay, let's talk about one definition each. And so what is the general definition of God now? What is the general definition? How do you define God generally, in general definition? Can you just move side? Just move side. No, is taraf. Okay, oh, okay. Go next slide, yeah. मैं next देख रहा था यहाँ से. I was just seeing the next thing. Prabhu, am I coming in this? Okay, fine. I was wondering. I mean to say, yeah. Otherwise, the purpose is lost. Okay. So philosophical perspective is given in Gita. General perspective is given in scriptures. Because general definition, so we go to general scriptures like Puranas. Puranas are very general, so we get definition from there. Philosophical perspective we get from Gita, power perspective from Bhagavatam, mercy perspective from Bhagavatam, and sweetness perspective from Chaitanya Charitamrita. So can you see something here? What?
Like the gradual progression, like you start from scripture.
Yeah, you see Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's why Prabhupada says Gita is undergraduation. Prabhupada said no. Bhagavatam is post-graduation and Chaitanya Charitamrita is PhD and super specialization, something Prabhupada. So why did Prabhupada say that? Because you see the point, undergraduation, post-graduation, super specialization, you don't read different subjects. It's the same subject. You don't change subject. You do chemistry, undergraduation, chemistry, PhD and chemistry, super specialization. Chemistry doesn't become physics in super specialization. But what happens is when you go higher, the depth changes. That is why Prabhupada says these first Gita, Bhagavatam and Chaitanya, it's not, subject is not changing, subject is God and love of God. It's the same subject, but depth is changing. Gita is giving you the philosophical perspective. Bhagavatam is giving you power and mercy, and Chaitanya is sweetness. You see, you're going more focused, you're making things clear, precise and brief. A focused thing. That is why it is undergraduation, post-graduation. That is why we say Okay, first read Gita, then Bhagavatam, then Chaitanya Charitamrita, because there is a depth there. That's the only reason. Otherwise, you can read Chaitanya Charitamrita first also, it doesn't matter. You can read that, you will not become atheist. You see, many devotees have not read Chaitanya Charitamrita, by the way. How many have you read Chaitanya Charitamrita?
Not complete.
Complete means no. Complete नहीं है तो नहीं. I am pregnant, but not complete.
Hare Krishna.
There's an example given. Doesn't make any sense. I am truthful, but not completely. So, anyway, please read that book, all of you, Chaitanya Charitamrita. If you don't read, it's very difficult to understand anything precisely. In fact, Bhaktisiddhanta used to tell, first book you should read Chaitanya Charitamrita. His understanding. In fact, he was not more focused on Chaitanya Charitamrita, he was more focused on Chaitanya Bhagavat. Because that's... he used to say that, because Chaitanya Bhagavat is a little easy, not more philosophical, in songs form, like that. So, but he used to say, okay, first go to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and then you come back to Bhagavatam, you will understand much better, according to him. It also makes sense. So yeah, so in this pretext of UG, PG, super specialization, it should not happen that you should not read Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's the whole point. Because many devotees have not read Chaitanya Charitamrita. Why? Because we have not read Bhagavatam. It's not finished. So when you will read? So you can read provided you understand the concept. That's a deeper perspective. That's all. Okay, so let's talk about all these perspectives now. Where Gita finishes, there Bhagavatam begins. Where Bhagavatam finishes, there Chaitanya Charitamrita begins. That's all these books are about. You just have to read 3 books. You are done. Okay, what is the general definition of God? Anybody? From scriptures, what's the general definition? No, from scriptures. It's not from Gita. No, I'm not asking about Gita. From scriptures, Puranas. Come on, what's that? Children, you don't read Gita? You read Gita? Or you read, you read Prabhupada books. No, Prabhupada books says general definition, by the way. Yeah?
It's a Shakti.
No, what's the definition, Prabhupada gives?
God means some energy,
Okay, so what's...
some power, some energy.
Or from different
Hey,
scriptures.
you know this definition, by the way. Supreme Personality of Godhead? Oh, that's a Prabhupada says.
That's a title.
Yeah, Prabhupada says like that. Okay, you know all this. You know this definition. That's what the whole point is. And when I tell you, you'll say, oh,
Is it like controller?
definition. I don't want terms here and there.
He created the
Ekala is for
universe.
Krishna also.
Huh?
Ekala is for
Oh, that's from CC. But,
Sarva Karana Karana.
okay, that can be there. That can be there.
The chief creator.
Definition.
Is it
No,
energy
he is a
who
destroyer
creates,
also,
maintains-
so definition is not complete.
The energy who creates, maintains, and inhalates. That's right.
See what's the definition, you know this.
Source of everything.
Oh, it's just messed up now. My God, you don't have font. Okay, it's a quiz. What's this?
Vishnu Purana.
Aishwarasya samagrasya वीर्यस्य श्रिय ज्ञान वैराग्य चैव शश्नम भगैतिंगना. Fonts are messed up. You don't have Balram font? Okay. This is from which Puran? Vishnu Puran. I'm just telling you, it's just fonts are really messed up. It's from Vishnu Puran, 6.5.47. That's how it goes. Aishwarasya samagrasya वीर्यस्य श्रिय. You can understand a little bit? You can see?
When you say it, everybody wants.
Yeah, when I say, so it's a
What it is.
Aishwarasya samagrasya वीर्यस्य यशस्यौ श्रिय S ज्ञान वैराग्य चैव शश्नाम. This is शश्नाम bhaga itingana. That's how it goes. So that is from Vishnu Puran. Vishnu Puran is a general scripture. Vishnu Puran is written by whom? No. It's compiled by Vyasa, but written by whom? I mean to say, who spoke this? It's compiled by who spoke this? No. Vedvyas wrote it. Who spoke this? No, not Lord. Who spoke this? All Puranas are written by Vyasadeva, but they are spoken by different sages. Like Agni Puran is spoken by Lord Agni, but it's written by Vyasadeva. That's how it goes.
With that logic,
No. It seems like that, but it's not that. Yeah. Well, logic it says. Logic says like that, but it's not that.
is it not we should where in the 12th canto?
Okay, Vishnu Puran is spoken by Parashar Muni. By the way, that's his main creation. I mean to say, main work. Parashar Muni has done many other works. Parashar Muni has also written Krishi Shastra. He has written on agriculture. He has also written on pediatrics. If you read his works, he has also written on a dictionary, a lexicon. The main thing is Vishnu Puran. He was a father of Vyasadeva. So he compiled he made this definition. He revealed this definition, not made, but revealed it. So what this definition says? This definition says, this is simple. Everybody knows this, no? Everybody knows this, by the way. God has 6 bhaga. This bhaga means 6.
Qualities?
Yeah. Bhaga means 6. Yeah.
Bhaga means opulence.
Yeah, opulence. Shashnam means 6. Shashnam means 6. Shashnam. Bhaga means qualities. So he has 6 qualities. By the way, Bhaga also includes six things in it. God has 6 things.
Has 6.
हाँ वो. So it has 6 things. 6 things in complete. Samagrasya means complete. There is no defect, there is no lack in that. So what are those 6 things? Everybody knows. Aishwarya means what? 6 opulences you have. So Aishwarya doesn't mean opulence, by the way. Aishwarya here means basically riddhis and siddhis. That's his Aishwarya. Riddhi, siddhi or nidhi. There are 3 things. All kind of gems, all kind of siddhis, mystic powers, and riddhis. So he's all those things. And Virya, he has all power. He's very powerful, all power. Yasha means all fame. He's very famous. But you might say he's not famous on earth. In America, he's not famous. So why do you say he's all famous? Why do we say he's all famous? Yeah, because only on earth, especially in Kali Yuga, he's not famous. Otherwise, in other yugas, he's very famous. Everybody knows Vishnu is God. And especially up Bhuvar, Swaha, Mahar, Janas, Tapasatte, and below earth. Atal, Vital, Sutal, Talatar, Satal, Patal, Pitralok. Everybody knows Vishnu is supreme. Even demons know Vishnu is supreme. But of course, they want to kill him, that's another point. But they are clear, he is God. So he is very famous. Shriya means what? Shriya means what? Shriya means beauty. He is the most beautiful. So, Hare Krishna. I knew it, yeah, this boy. See, that's why I was telling you. No, you don't have to do anything. But you're blocking the projector. No, thank you. Why don't the boy goes from there or somewhere? You have to control him now. Okay, okay, so what I was telling, I just got disturbed. Yeah, Shreya means beautiful. So if anybody says I'm God, then that means he has to be beautiful. I mean, isn't it? But most of these, yeah, but most of the people who claim themselves God, they are absolutely ugly. And the people in South India, there are 6,000 gods. North India, there are at least 500 gods. Everybody says I'm God, and people believe. It's such a crap thing to do so. And many educated people believe, by the way. It's so unfortunate. People are intelligent and they believe some person is God in spite of the fact he's not at all beautiful and he's not at all powerful, and it's a crazy situation. Why? Because of lack of knowledge. They don't know. So, Shriya means beautiful. Gyan, God, Krishna is the most beautiful. He's God. He's so beautiful that when he sees himself in the mirror, he himself gets attracted to himself. That's his beauty. Yeah. We also get attracted to our own beauty, am I right? You see yourself in mirror, you think you are the most beautiful. Everybody thinks like that. That's coming from God. That's a reflection of that perverted reflection of what he feels. But he's so beautiful that even God of love will get attracted towards him. That's his beauty. Gyan means full knowledge, complete knowledge. Vairagya means in spite of having all these things, he's completely renounced. He's completely renounced. He's not attached to anything. These are the 6 qualities in God. Okay, tell me, which is the most important quality of God in all these 6? What do you say about that? Which one? Why? No, so why? You have to tell me why.
So if Krishna has everything, but still he is detached.
Okay, so what's the big thing in that? बड़ी बात क्यों है? Okay, I got your point. Prabhu is saying Vairagya, renunciation is the most important quality of all. That's right. Answer is right, but the reason is, I want to know the reason. Why that's the most important? Yeah.
Because he has everything.
Your reason is partially correct, but I just wanted to know.
He has everything, but he doesn't need anything.
He has everything, but he doesn't
Need anything.
Okay. I can understand what you're saying. Okay, so why renunciation? Because you were saying it's very difficult to do that. If you have everything, and still be detached from it, that is impossible for a human, even for a demigod. So that is why renunciation is the greatest quality of God from one perspective, because in spite of he has everything, still he's completely disinterested in that. You know why? Because he's completely satisfied within himself. That's the whole point there. That's the reason. Renunciation is the greatest quality of God because it shows that he's completely satisfied within himself. That is why one of the name of God is Atmaram. You know this? He's completely satisfied. He doesn't need anybody. He doesn't need anything. He's independent. That's why Vairagya is very important, one of the most important quality. But for us as devotees, the most important quality will be Shri. Shri means beauty. You know why? Because the concept of beauty brings the concept of form of God. If you talk about beauty, then there should be a form. You can't say some light is beautiful. You can say in a very metaphorical way, but beauty brings form. So Shri is very important because we like to see God is having a form and beauty, and if he has form, we can interact with him. And that's what we want. Our aim is love. Love means interaction and relationship. For that, we need a form. And that's why beauty is important. So these two qualities are very important. So this is a general definition. Okay, what is a philosophical definition now from Gita? Anybody can tell? aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva chante maham. That you can tell, but it's not a complete definition, because it just says God is a creator and maintainer. Am I right? But that's not complete. God is destroyer also. That's not there in the definition. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate. That's all. What's the definition of God according to Gita? In God's words. Remember that. Mata parataram nanyat kinche. There is nothing superior to me. But that doesn't define God fully, isn't it? It's not precise. Everything should be included. So if you say define Prime Minister. Okay, definition of Prime Minister is there is nothing superior to Prime Minister. He's a topmost. Is this a definition? That is spoken by Arjun. But I want definition of God in God's words. Otherwise, your definition would have been right. Can you put this? So we have a PDF in this.
Okay.
So fonts will come properly. Or whatever, you do something. So okay, what's the philosophical definition from Gita? I'll tell. Should I tell? Of course, I have to tell if you don't know. Otherwise, what? Nothing is going to happen. Okay, so you know that verse. Okay, let me ask you a quiz. The time he is doing that. There's one verse in Gita, Gatir Bharta Prabhu Sakshi Nivasa Suhit Sharanam. What is that verse? Now I told you, what's the number? Let's talk about that. You have heard this verse? What is the number? And I'll tell you why this verse is important. Prabhupada says in the purport, by the way. You read the purport. Okay, so the verse number is Gita. You can see in your Google. You can ask Google or see in Vedabase. You're doing something? You're taking the font or what? देखो वहाँ पे आ रहा है philosophical definition. Oh, this PDF? Okay, good. Yeah, next slide. Okay, we got it. Gita 9.18. That is the definition of God. 9th chapter, 18th verse. Gatir Bharta Prabhu Sakshi Nivasa Sharanam Suhit Prabhav Pralaya Sthanam. Everything is there. Prabhava Pralaya Sthanam Nidhanam Bijam Abhyam. This Krishna is saying about himself. It's the best definition. God defines himself. I am the goal, the sustainer, the master, the witness, the abode, the refuge, the most dear friend. I am the creation, the annihilation, the basis of everything, the resting place and the eternal seed. Complete definition of God. Nothing is missing there. So, and this is said by Krishna himself. And if you read the purport, go and read the purport. Go and read the purport what Prabhupada says. And Prabhupada talks about definition of God in this verse. In fact, all the acharyas, Madhva, Vallabha, all of them quote this verse. And most of the acharyas, they say that if you want to offer a prayer to God, to Krishna, you can offer this verse. Because this describes him completely. So, he says, so Gatir means I am the goal. Bharta means I am the sustainer or the maintainer. Prabhu means I am the controller. Sakshi means I am the witness. Nivasa means, oh, you're seeing there, okay. No problem. Sharanam means, I am the refuge. I am the object of surrender. You don't have to surrender to anybody. Nobody. Suhit means I am the well-wisher. I am a real friend. There is no other real friend. Prabhava means I am the creator. Pralaya means I am the destroyer. Sthanam means I am the maintainer, creator, maintainer, destroyer. Nidhanam means I am the resting place. Ultimately, you will find satisfaction in me. Bijam means I am the source of everything, of life. And Avayam means I am the eternal. Very nice verse. You can remember this verse. So that is how you define God according to Gita. Okay. Next verse. Wait. So next is what? Huh. Okay, next. So, how do you define God according to power perspective? Tell me that. From Bhagavatam, now that's from Bhagavatam. Power perspective. There's your definition. Next. That's simple definition. Janmadhyasyato anivaditratashchartheshu abhigya surat satyam param dhimahi. Bhagavatam 1.1.1. You see this definition talking about power. You know why? Because you see that word Janmade asyata. Krishna is the source of everything. Jan means birth. That basically defines his power. Everything is coming from him. There is nothing in this world which doesn't proceed from him. Janm Adi. Adi means everything. Adi means he gives birth, he maintains, he destroys, he does everything. Everything is through him. And that's a very powerful statement. Even time is he, which moves everything. Anyavat and itarata. These two words are, anyavat means directly, itarata means indirectly. Everything directly and indirectly comes from Krishna. Now what that means is, directly means why Bhagavatam says directly, indirectly. Because some things Krishna has not created. Now Krishna gives, you see the point, Krishna is like an architect. Now there's a building and there's an architect. So what does architect do? It plans. And Krishna also provides basic materials. And he gives this plan and basic materials to Brahmaji. And he makes. So that is indirect creation, secondary creation. So Krishna, what he does, he makes fire, air, ether, water, sound, mind, intelligence, ego. This Brahma cannot make. It's beyond his power. And he gives, can you just sit there? Just sit there. If you want to go there, go from that side. Because otherwise it's just... So, Brahma cannot do that. You cannot create fire and earth and water. If you think about it, it's a very... You cannot even think of creating sky. That concept is... How do you conceive something as sky? And water and air. So he gives all these, he makes all these, gives to Brahma, and then he says you mix it and make all the planets, different type of people. So Brahma is like a, let's say, engineer. The first civil engineer was Brahmaji. You can say like that. And so that's Krishna. Krishna is controlling. 𝗪थेषु abhigya. Abhigya means he knows everything. Gya means knowing. Abhi means everything. Because he created everything, he knows everything. That's power. Omniscient. You see those words? Omnipotent. Anyavaditaratas. He makes everything. He's very powerful. Omniscient, omnipotent. And Swarat. Swarat means the word is Samrat. He's a king of all kings. He's independent of everything. Omniscient, omnipotent. And also Abhigya means because he knows everything, that means he's present everywhere. How can he know everything? If you have to be present everywhere to know everything, am I right? So omnipresent, omniscient and omnipotent. It defines God. Satyam param dhimahi is absolute truth. So that's the power perspective. You got my point? Everybody's understanding? Okay, next. So, oh no, wait. I have to ask them. So next is what? Which perspective? Mercy. Okay, what's the definition of mercy perspective? Can anybody tell me? If you tell me this, I'll give you a prize. Mercy perspective from Bhagavatam. From Bhagavatam. Definition. That's a very nice verse actually. Very nice verse. You might not really know that unless you know it. Because you can't guess that. What is mercy perspective? Okay, this verse is a very famous verse. And this verse is the most favorite verse of Madhvacharya or Vallabhacharya. And they again and again repeat, in fact, of Gaudiya Vaishnavas also. Jiva Goswami again repeats this verse. And you should know this verse. It's a very beautiful verse. A very beautiful verse to praise Krishna. Okay, this is from Bhagavatam 2nd canto. And here is this verse. 2nd 10:12. Dravyam karmascha kalascha jeev svabhaveva yad anugratah santi na santi yad upekshaya. One should definitely know that all material ingredients, activities, time, modes and living entities who are meant to enjoy them all exist by His mercy only. As soon as He does not care for them, everything becomes non-existent. Absolutely beautiful verse. So many commentaries are written on this verse. This verse is commented left, right, upside down. It's that kind of verse. And you see what it says. Yad anugrataha santi. Anugrata means? Anugra means? Mercy. Santi means exist. If He has mercy, everything will exist. Na santi, it doesn't exist. Yad upekshaya. If He neglects everything, if He removes His mercy, na santi, everything that's non-existent. Finish.
It will be gone.
That means if Krishna stops thinking about us, we will vanish. Simply because He is thinking about us, we exist. Atoms exist. Creation exists. If He stops thinking, He stops seeing, everything will vanish. If He says, now I don't care, it's vanished. And that happens in pralay. Universal destruction. Krishna closes his eyes and he stops thinking. Everything dissolves. That's what, it's almost like quantum mechanics. If you observe, it exists. If you do not observe, it's gone. Quantum mechanics says that. In fact, by the way, this verse, this Heisenberg, you know Heisenberg? Kids? You know? Yeah. Okay. Heisenberg, these people invented quantum mechanics, and they actually knew this verse and Upanishads. And they said, okay, if you observe material phenomena, it will exist. Quantum mechanics says if you observe, it will exist. If you don't observe, it just becomes possibilities. It's like that. If you observe light, it is particles. If you don't observe, it is wave.
It coexists.
So how does it happen? So that's universe all about. As soon as Krishna stops thinking about it, it becomes waves, it becomes energy, Prakriti. And as soon as he starts thinking, it materializes into earth, water, Mahatattva and Pradhan and objects and like this. So it's so they got some idea from this, some idea. So what exists for mercy? Dravyam. Dravyam means? Material ingredients, earth, water, fire, air, whatever you see, whatever you cannot see. Whatever you can think, whatever you cannot think. Whatever you can imagine, whatever you cannot imagine. Everything is due to mercy of God. Dravyam, karma. Karma means our activities. Our activities are also dependent on the mercy of God. You are sitting, it's dependent on mercy of God. You're listening to me, it is all the mercy of God. If Krishna doesn't have mercy, you'll not be able to listen anything. You can't even sit. Because now you might say, come on, we can't sit without His mercy. Well, you can't sit. If Krishna recedes mercy, you can get paralyzed. And if He recedes His mercy, you can lose your memory. Many people lose their memory. In fact, it's the opposite. You see, we can see because of mercy of God. It's not like that. The real fact is that because God is seeing, that's why we can see. First He hears and then we hear. Prabhupada gives the example of that. If you have eyes, if you have object, but if you don't have light, can you see? You can't see. So because of light we can see. That is why because of God we can see, hear, do everything. That is why every second a pure devotee can experience mercy of Lord. But we forget. That is called false ego. We think I am hearing, I am understanding, I am sitting, but that's not the whole point. We are not independent in anything, and that's a pure devotee all about. That's why one reporter came to Prabhupada. That reporter was saying, one devotee was saying, Prabhupada, it's so difficult to remember Krishna. Prabhupada said, it is so difficult to forget Krishna. Because everything is happening because of Him. Because of Him, everything is happening. You're speaking because of His mercy. You see, okay, fine, let me ask you a question here and then I'll go forward. you are sitting because of a mercy. How can you prove that? You're saying, I'm sitting, no problem. What's a big thing?
I decided to sit and that's why I'm sitting.
But I am saying you're sitting because of mercy of God.
So how do you?
That's what I'm asking you. That's my question to you all. That's my question. It's not that you have decided you sit and God is not involved in this activity. If you go in Christianity, I mean to say not Orthodox Christianity, modern Christianity, for them God is in clouds. He made the earth and now He's not involved. A clock mechanism. According to Vedanta philosophy, every second you need God's help. You can't do anything without God, without Krishna. So, okay, you are sitting, but okay, here's a proposal. You are sitting, you should be sitting because of mercy of God, according to our philosophy. How is that?
So multiple factors like the time, place, we are coming here.
Give me a simple answer, I don't know.
So
No, sitting, the act of sitting. Sitting, that's
I'm able to sit because my body is allowing me to do that. Yeah.
Well, one thing is simple. You are sitting on this, you are sitting because of gravity. Otherwise, you will be flying in it. You can't sit. And what is gravity? Science understands? No. Science has no answer what is gravity. Science has no answer what is time. Newton discovered gravity and time, two things. And when they asked him, okay, you discovered time and gravity, but what is it? Newton said, this question is not allowed. I don't know. But it works. In equation you use time and gravity, that's okay, it works, and I have an equation to manipulate it, gravity at least, or to not manipulate, but to use it to make technology. But what is it? I don't know, and still we don't know. But Gita knows what is gravity.
So there is a small story to
What's that?
everybody. Like he said, I'm sitting because I decided to. So there's a small, I think you must have heard this. One person was going and there was some pravachan going on, so he just sat there for some time. And Swamiji was giving pravachan. He said that nothing happens without God's mercy.
Acha.
And in that he said that, for an example, he said, even if you don't want to eat, you can't decide that. So this person, he starts going towards his village and he thinks in his way that everything I agree, but how can I decide not to eat, how can God make me eat? So he was in that mood,
Oh, okay.
So I think,
Okay, you speak for them.
so the forest came, he wanted to take rest. So he had brought food from home. So he was about to open and eat. And suddenly some dacoits were also going the same way. They saw this nice banyan tree, so they said, okay, let's take some rest here. And this fellow, by the time, because he's heard the sound of some horses and all, so he climbed the tree because he was afraid seeing so many dacoits. So they came there, and one of them said, Sardar, bahut bhook laga hai, I'm very hungry. They said, jungle mein, forest mein, what is it?
Yeah, what do you get? Yeah.
So suddenly they saw one potli there because this fellow has forgotten the potli there. So they say something is there. They open it, have food. Wow, there's a food. But the Sardar says, hey, look, one minute. Somebody has kept the food means he must be very smart. He must have put some poison in that so that we eat that and we all die and he takes away all our money. So there is some guy, look for him. So ultimately they found this guy on the tree, brought him down, and one Sardar said, okay, make him first eat. If he survives, then we also eat. So now this person had already decided he will not eat. But Krishna.
Oh, okay.
So now, without his mercy, without
It
his
forced him.
nothing can happen.
He was forced to eat. So you see the point. Yeah. So you see the point. Yeah, that's a story. Yeah, it's in scriptures. Yeah. So yeah, many things happen because of circumstances, and it's not just our independent decision. That's the whole point. Things are controlled. So we are sitting because of a plan of God. He made gravity and we sit here. Otherwise, even if we decide to sit, we can't sit, right? So that's how. So when you eat, who digests your food? Krishna, Vaishvanar. He is there in form of fire in your stomach, and he digests everything. So he is there everywhere. He's always there, but we don't recognize him, and that's why we can't see his mercy. So that's the whole point. Karma, kalas, time. He's time. Krishna says, "I am time." Past, present, future. Everything is moving. It's time. Swabhava, your nature, is also dependent on mercy of God. Who you are, how you behave, it all depends on mercy of God, because He has put you in certain body, and the body should behave in that manner, isn't it? So, and jiva, soul, even your very existence is on the mercy of God. Krishna can destroy your soul also, if he wants. Soul is eternal. Have you heard that? Or can he destroy it? He can do everything. That's what Madhva says. If he wants, he can extinguish you. He can erase you. But he doesn't. And he makes you eternal. Okay, as a soul you are eternal. He can do. In fact, he can erase you. And what's the evidence of that? He can destroy you completely. What's the evidence of that? So you might say, no, he can't do. I challenge him. Like 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗃 Ravan. But there's evidence for that. He can do that. What's the evidence? He gives you that evidence every day. What's the evidence? He gives that evidence to you to make you humble. But we are so fools, we still don't become humble because we don't see that evidence. See, every night you sleep, and in sleep, sometimes you go to deep sleep. And what happens in deep sleep? You forget yourself. You forget yourself. For a moment, for that particular moment, you have forgotten even yourself. Even you are erased in that sense. Your whole memory about your self-consciousness is erased. And like that, he can even erase you. So he can do anything. So better be careful. That's the whole. He is merciful. But if he becomes angry, he is really angry. That's why it is said he is softer than rose and harder than thunderbolt. About Chaitanya Prabhu says. So that's what, so mercy perspective. And the last is? Wait, what's sweetness perspective? What's the definition? Now tell me. From Chaitanya Charitamrita. Oh, you know that. Okay, from scriptures, if you talk about sweetness perspective, there's a definition, raso vaisaha. You have heard about that? Chandogya Upanishad, Prabhupada mentions. Raso vaisaha. What is God? God is sweetness. For example, if I ask, what is human body made of? So what is made of? Skin, bones, flesh, blah, blah, blah. What is the body of sun made of? Fire. What is body of Brahma made of? No? Sound. Or maybe better, ether. And what is body of God made of? Oh, that's the whole point. Body of God is made of sweetness. Bliss. Now, how do you make a body out of bliss? That we can't tell. Just like, for example, how do you make a body out of sound? Who knows? You don't know. You can speculate because technology has made sound walls to block radiations. But we don't know. We don't know exactly how that happens. So even we can't understand body made of sound. God's body is made of bliss. So if you touch him, you will feel bliss. That's why if you touch me, nothing will happen. So that's the whole point there. So that is how it goes. So next, that's the last definition. Sweetness perspective. Rasik Shekhar Krishna Parama Karun 𝗪𝗲𝗪 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 Chaitanya Adi Leela 4.16. Thus he is known as supremely jubilant and the most merciful of all. Now that word Rasik Shekhar, that defines God. That defines God, Rasik Shekhar. Rasik Shekhar. Shekhar means what? Shekhar means hero. Shikhar. The peak, topmost. Rasik means, rasa means sweetness. And Rasik means who tastes the sweetness himself and who makes other taste sweetness. That's how it goes. That is Rasik. So he's a topmost of all people who can taste bliss and who can give bliss. And who is bliss. And that's the sweetness perspective. This word Rasik Shekhar is used many times in scriptures, in Nectar of Devotion, by the way. So Rasik Shekhar Parama Karun. And because he is Parama Karun, he is the most merciful. That is why what happens is, because he is made of bliss and he is most merciful, so he wants to share his bliss with everybody. If you are not merciful, then you will keep to yourself. And that is why you see, that is why I told mercy perspective is there in sweetness perspective. It is there. It goes both ways. So his mercy makes him share his sweetness with everybody. And that is a good man. A bad man, a gentleman, if he has good things, he will share. A useless, nonsense person, if he has good things, he will keep himself. He might be good, but he's nonsense. So every good person is not good. A good person may be bad. But God is like that. That is why this is a sweetness perspective. Remember this definition, and this will help you a lot. And this is the topmost definition we have. Sweetness perspective. So you see the point. Okay, what do you understand by this definition? Why this definition is so important? You know why? Because he's Rasik Shekhar. The whole point is he wants to give you something. And what does he want to give you? Ras, bliss. His own sweetness he wants to share. That's what he wants to do. He wants to give you his sweetness. But the whole point is you have to make yourself deserving for that. Prabhupada says, first deserve, but he wants to give. And that's, if you ask God, what do you want to give to me? Okay, he wants to give you what? Okay, fine, you might think Krishna wants to give us prasad. No. He says, you manage your food, no problem. You offer me, I'll make it prasad, keep on eating, no problem. But that's what I'm not interested in. Okay, so what he wants to give you? He wants to give you blessings. Okay, take blessings, no problem, do whatever you want. But if you tell Krishna, really what do you want to give me? Krishna says, I have something and I want to really give you that. I want to share my bliss with you. But the whole problem is you're not ready for that. Because if Krishna starts sharing his bliss, if even Krishna shares his 0.0000 infinite 0.1% bliss, and if you're not pure, you will die. You'll immediately die. You'll not be able to handle it. You will become disturbed. And you will become very fearful. What has happened? And that happened in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela. That fisherman, he got bliss by touching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he just got disturbed. So he wants to he's waiting. He's waiting to give. People wait to take. He's waiting to give, but he's helpless. So you see the point, if you're not becoming pure, actually you are putting Krishna in trouble. You are hurting him. And that's why this definition helps a lot to understand what he wants from us and what he wants to give to us. He has this gift, and the sooner we become ready for that, it's good. So it's like, as the example is given, a king. A king wants to give you a gift. And if you don't want it, then what happens? Then he will kill you. That's all. I am giving you a gift. I am a king and you deny? How dare you do that? He'll kill you. And that's the whole point. Krishna wants to give us sweetness. He wants to share his bliss. But we don't make ourselves ready. That means we're denying it. And that's why we have to die. There's death. The question is why we die. Why there is death. Because we are not ready to accept that gift. We are making excuses. We are delaying ourselves to become pure. We have so many excuses, am I right? And that's why, okay, how dare you not share my sweetness? So die, death. And again birth, again death, again birth. So until unless you don't accept that gift, you have to die. You can't keep on living. That's the mystery of death. And once you accept that gift, you become pure and accept that, finish. No death. That's the whole point. That is why I see this definition is so important. So these are all definitions, and the last slide is, that's why Prabhupada said, we must simply try to understand God in truth, try to understand His appearance, disappearance, functions, and we understand Him in truth, we immediately enter the kingdom of God. Science of Self-Realization, chapter 7. Prabhupada says, we must simply try to understand God in truth. He speaks about understanding. And that's why I defined. He says understand. He is not saying try to feel God. People say like that. Understand. And once you understand Him, we immediately enter kingdom of God. That's all, finish. And that's what we are trying to do. We are trying to understand God. And that is devotion. Because if you understand Him, then you know Him. If you know Him, then you get related with Him. And that is the definition of devotion. Okay, so that's how it goes. These sites, yeah, these are my sites. You can just go on this, if you can log on. Oh, actually, yeah. Any questions, and I'm done here. Hare Krishna. 𝗙 Prabhupada ki. Some definitions. Yeah, you want?
So you were saying like if you accept that like this, then no death. What do you mean by like no death?
You don't die.
Like you become immortal or something? In the material world?
Yeah, everywhere.
You want to live here?
That's how you become.
You just read Markandeya Rishi.
Okay, anybody wants to ask anything? Any questions? I am done here.
Prabhuji, in the beginning of the class, you said about love of God.
Yeah.
And you asked us, you can find out in 𝗙CE. So, can you please give us a favor and you tell us?
Oh, actually, you can go to my channel and see there. I just gave a seminar. What is love? So go to my channel, Keshav Anand, YouTube, Keshav Anand Das. And there's a seminar there. But there's a definition of love. There's a definition in Chaitanya Charitamrita. 𝗪𝗔 mamta atishayankita bhaveva sandranatma buddhai premane gadyate. That's Madhya Lila. So, yeah.
I think from mercy perspective, you said like the not. So at the end, when he stops thinking about everything, does this like is this soul also considered something that will go away, or like
It just, everything becomes non-existent. Soul goes in his belly and you sleep. You forget yourself. Self-consciousness is gone in that sense. But He preserves your entity out of His mercy. Okay, so if you want to ask me anything, is it clear to all of you? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Should I ask you?
Never thought from that perspective.
Of course, yeah. So should I ask you? Do you remember? Okay. Okay, what is the definition from mercy, from power perspective? What's the definition of God? Yes, yes, Samakrasya. Okay, how many definitions of God are there? No.
Can be unlimited.
Unlimited.
From 5 perspective.
Unlimited, but I just told you 5.
5 perspectives.
I can tell you 3 more. Vedas for humans, eight definitions are available. Beyond that, demigods know, and liberated souls. But they are unlimited definitions of God, because they are unlimited perspectives of God. That's how it goes. Okay. So, Vishnu Puran was written by whom? Wrong. Yeah, Vishnu Puran is written by Ved Vyasa. Spoken by whom? Yeah, you have to hear my questions properly, otherwise you go wrong. Who is father of Ved Vyasa? And who is father of Parashar Muni? Okay, it's homework for you. I have to find that. I didn't tell you, but that's homework. And what is a
Lord Brahma.
No. And what is the most important definition of God? Sweetness. Why?
Because everything is included in sweetness.
Okay, good. So you know now many things. Fine. So you can log on to my site, go there, and I just want to tell you something, and then goodbye to all of you. I just want to tell this. I have some. See, I have to tell you many things, but I can't tell you. So I have some pen drives here.